everybody, welcome to Inside IIM. My name is Oshin and today I'm back with a conversation for you, but this time it's not just about CAT, it's about something else that might affect what you do after your CAT, that's your MBA. WorkX is always a question on a lot of your minds and we get a lot of requests on it. So today we're going to talk about how your pre-MBA WorkX affects your placements when you're doing your MBA. And that also entails what happens if you don't have WorkX before your MBA. That's why to answer those questions, we have all kinds of people today. We have somebody who's a fresher, we have somebody who's in B school, and we have somebody who's out of B school now, they've done their MBA. Samad, Trishna, and Amrita, thank you so much for joining me today. Let me ask you to quickly introduce yourselves to our audience so they know who they're going to be talking to today. Let's start with Samad.
Yeah, hi everyone. So my name is Saman Alam. I did my MBA from IIM Bangalore this year itself. Before that, I was working with KPMG India as an audit analyst, wherein I used to look after areas like e-audit, control testing for our clients, which were spread out across BFSI, pharma, IT, and pharmaceutical industries. Worked there for about 18 months. And right now I'm working with Tata Capital as a management trainee in their clean tech energy department, which basically finances all the green projects. So that's a brief about me.
Okay, great. Thanks, Samad. Let's go ahead with Trishna.
Thanks, Oshin. Hi, everyone. So I graduated from IIT Madras in 2018. Post that, I worked with Wipro Consumer Care, so the FMCG industry, and then for Miebach Consulting. And then I joined IIM Bangalore in 2020, and I had interned with Carney this summer.
All right, great. Thanks for joining us. Then finally, we have Amrita.
Hi everyone, I'm Amrita Mishra. I graduated from NIT Raipur in 2020, so I'm a fresher. I soon joined IIM Calcutta afterwards, and I'm currently interning with Vedanta Resources Limited as a general management intern.
Okay, thank you for joining in, guys. And without further ado, let's quickly dive into the question at hand. It's a quick question first. Does your pre-MBA work experience affect your B school placement? Okay, do you want me to take names?
So I think I'll go first. So what I personally think is that it depends from industry to industry or from like particular roles. So some roles might require WorkX, but and some roles don't. But it also depends a lot on your preparation. So like if you have prepared extremely well, then you will surely get into like your dream role or your dream company. So for example, a lot of people say that marketing companies usually hire freshers and like they prefer freshers more, but that is not the case because like the people who have already had a WorkX in analytics and all, they are also preferred sometimes. So it's not that much about the WorkX part. Also, your extracurriculars matter a lot. So if you have good extracurriculars, you have good academic achievements and all. It also contributes a lot to your summer placements and like even final placements.
Got it. I'll pass the question to you, Samad, for a quick answer on if you think pre-MBA WorkX affects your B school placements, the final placement.
Yeah, I think I agree with Amrita to a certain extent. It's a blend of a lot of factors which decides where exactly you're gonna be placed after your B school. But if you have a certain WorkX, then when it comes to the interview process, then there's a certain expectation which like a interviewing panel has from you because you have come from that domain. So that is something which like people who are right now working should be cognizant about, that they should not be just mechanically sifting through the tasks that they're doing at their work. They should also be having an in-depth understanding as to why they are performing their work and what's the bigger picture surrounding what exactly their work pertains, irrespective of the industry or domain they are working in. So that is one addition which I would like to make.
Got it. Thanks for that. Finally, Trishna, the question.
I had a few points in mind. So just so your work experience is actually just you get to add a few, like your resume is a very important part of your summer placement process. So you get like your work experience helps you, whatever you have, it helps you add some points to that. So and that's an opportunity to show your leadership and impact and all of that. And of course, if your past work experience is similar, like I had worked for a consulting firm before, so if your past work experience is similar to the field you're looking for, that is certainly a bonus, but that's not necessary. Like I've seen people work in core engineering jobs who've made it to top consulting firms. And also your work experience helps you, say, in your interviews and interactions with the firms. So you have experience in, say, dealing with like a senior people in the firm and, say, in an official capacity. So you say you won't exactly be very hesitant and you know how to go about it. So that is certainly a plus. And in your actual, so since I've just gotten done with my summer internship, even in your actual internship, that definitely helps. Like, just you have some experience with corporate life and all of that. So given all of that, it's not as if freshers are at any disadvantage. It's your performance on the D day is what finally matters. And even say in your summer internship, there's just a slightly a longer adjustment period, but all of them managed to cope. So that isn't necessarily a disadvantage.
Got it. So as far as does your pre-MBA work affect your B-school placement? As far as this question is concerned, would you unanimously give it a yes, all of you? Okay, got it. Great.
Yes.
Yeah. So then let's dive in. I just want to let everybody who's watching know that we're going to take it two ways now from here. One is I'll ask these guys what factors affect final placements at B school in general. They can also talk about summer placements if they want. And the second bit is we'll talk about so they're all from different domains. They are worked in different domains before their MBA. So we're going to talk about how that played a role during their final placement so that you guys understand how domains could affect placements if they do at all. So that's the flow for today. I'll go to the first bit now, which is what common factors do you guys think affect placements at B school at large? And let me start with Trishna for this question, and we'll take it up. All of you can feel free to add it.
Okay, so some important factors in my opinion are, so say first I had a few points. So starting with your resume. So here, whatever you've done, just the way you frame your points is very important. So I've seen a lot of people who've done fantastic work, haven't framed their points very well to convey that kind of impact and all of that. So for this, I mean, you will get adequate help from your various colleges, PlaceCom and seniors and all of that, but framing of points is very important. So resume is the first step. Then you come to preparation. So even preparation, so then just be clear about what you have to do. In my case, specific to me, I was preparing for consulting. So there are people say who've done infinite cases. That gives them confidence. But there are some people who say have just done a limited number of cases and they were fine with that. They've made it to the same firms. So just decide what works for you rather than just following the herd. And so develop a strategy for preparation. And finally, your agility is very important. So the summer placement process, because that is what I have gone through. The summer placement process has a lot of uncertainty. Say starting from the time the shortlist come out to the D day. So just be prepared for all of this uncertainty and have the ability to stay calm. Because honestly, there's a lot of stress. You see everybody around you so stressed. So that ability to stay calm, and even on the D day. So say you don't get into the first company, then you're shuttled to another company and all of that. So even the D day, the ability to stay calm, I think your emotional quotient is of a lot of importance, because I've seen people who were incredible people who just lost their nerve after, say, they didn't do one interview well. So that is also certainly very important. So I think these 3 points, the way you put your work across in your resume, and your preparation, like whether you've strategized well in that way, and your ability to primarily stay calm. These are important points that will affect your placements.
Yeah, so I think I agree with all the points which Trishna made with regards to the summer placement. I think all of that is true for the final placements as well, but the only key difference being the tenure through which you are exposed to so much amount of stress, and the kind of prep work which you put in gets spread out across a longer timeline. That's the only difference. The stakes are as high as they are in the summers, but it's just that it's spread across a longer period of time. Another thing which I would like to add is that people should ensure that they are able to quantify their achievements when they have work. If they have taken certain initiatives, like I remember, I got a corporate citizenship award while I was there in KPMG because I had the most number of hours of any employee in a particular quarter. So I was able to quantify that and take necessary proofs, and then I put it across in my resume. And that was certainly a standout feature. So this, and apart from that, certain key factors which are important when it comes to placement. I think the kind of PORs that you have had in the past or while in the college, if you're there in any committee or club or an interest group, that certainly adds. It gives a message that you are a very holistic kind of a person who is able to manage things across in an already strenuous B school schedule. And if you are able to win some case competitions or the kind of work which you have done in your summer internships and the projects which you have had. So all these things do add up and helps you to stand out as compared to your peers. So yeah, those are additional factors.
So I think adding on to Trishna's point of calmness, I think it's also important how we present ourselves in the interview. So what worked for me in Vedanta interview was my zeal to learn new things because I had a computer science background, and Vedanta is like a mining and metals kind of company, right? So what worked out for me there was my zeal to learn and my interest in I really wanted to work, and I was deeply interested in it. So if they asked me a very they asked me a related question about oil and gas. I had no idea about it, but I could think at that point of time and came to the most logical solution that I thought of. So I think they really liked that, and it showed them that I was interested to work with that firm. So I think the energy also matters, whatever energy you portray. Moreover, it is also important that not only what you mention in your CV is it's how you present it in front of the interviews. If you don't have any knowledge about what you're talking or what you have written in your CV, then it's no use. So they also, like in my Vedanta interview, they've also talked about I am interested in Bharatanatyam, so I had learned Bharatanatyam, so they were talking about that as well. So I could talk about it in the interview. I could describe it. I could share my experiences. I think when a two-way conversation happens between an interviewee and an interviewer, I think that matters a lot, and that strikes the deal in a lot of cases.
Okay, I can feel that energy even just now. Thank you so much, Amrita. Let's quickly take up a few audience questions. Our viewers are asking us a few things. Let's take them up, then we'll proceed. I'll go at the top first. So, Sai Aparna is in her second year of BCom and she's preparing for CAT 2022. She's a fresher. What should I do to make the best in interviews and placements? Is there anything that you think CAT aspirants can do at this point of time while they're in college, undergraduation, to make sure that their B school placements, that basically helps their B school placements?
So I would like to take up this question if everyone is fine with it. Yeah. So I think you should be enthusiastic about participating in as many competitions, like extracurricular activities. If you're interested in writing, then go out and do something in writing. Or if you're interested in dancing, then participate in dancing events and all. So all this will help you when you start preparing your CV after you come to your B school, because the first few months are so hectic that your most recent achievements or your most recent activities help you a lot. So try to participate and be in as many extracurricular activities as possible. That will be my number one tip.
Okay,
just adding to that, like your academics are also very important. Like especially since you mentioned, since you're currently a student, so your academics, your scores and all also count. So if you think you can work on that as well, that'd be great.
Okay, Samad, if you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I think so it would be a bit premature, but I think if you can take up some interest in a particular industry or particular sectors, which might give you an upper hand when you are there in a B school. I remember one person who was very much into following the IT sector as primarily it was for buying stocks and all, but he had a good understanding about IT sector, which certainly helped in certain IT and analytics kind of roles. So that's one thing.
So another small point that I would like to add is that like you can take up internships when you have summer breaks or winter breaks. Like even 1 month, 2 month internships where you can create an impact will make a lot of difference in your CV in the future. So if you can take up internships or side projects or something, that would be great.
then so there are few questions that are a bit personal. I'll come to those shortly. But before that, I want to ask you some generic questions that folks have asked. One of those is, does your pre-MBA salary matter to your final placements during your MBA?
No, no, I don't think that it has much of an impact, because people who come over any of the B school to do an MBA, they usually have a salary spread across a very wide spectrum. So I don't think it. I have personally haven't seen much of an impact on the salary front, that your previous salary deciding what you'll actually get. Usually, most of the people across the role will, if it's a particular role, all of them will have the same salary for that role. Mostly, in most cases.
Okay, so is your pre-MBA salary asked when you're sitting for placement? Do you share that information with the recruiters?
I
I
haven't seen. Yeah, them
They
asking
only your
personally. Yeah, I don't think it's disclosed also.
Got it. And when you're sitting for interviews and the conversation is about your pre-MBA work ex, is it largely about what you did and what impact you created, not about the money at all?
In most cases, yes, they would, because they are not evaluating you in terms of what value you brought to that organization in terms of the salary aspects. It's more about what exactly did you do and what exactly were you able to learn through that, and how can you bring that experience so that it's creates some value for us at our organization. That's how it is.
Okay. And another question is, does WorkX restrict one's ability to shift domains, especially at B schools like ISB that require WorkX?
And I can't comment anything about ISB in particular, but in terms of shifting, yeah, I've seen people who have had very much unrelated work and they have moved to a completely different domain. So that is something which people are able to do. Usually, the route for that is either through the case competitions, if they're able to get a PPI or something, or if they join a committee or a club, or if they are able to showcase in their CV that they are inclined towards a particular domain, which is very much different from the previous domain. So that in itself reflects to the recruiter that this person is gravitating towards this domain, and which increases the likelihood of that person being eventually shortlisted for either summers or finals. So that is something which people do. Most of these things I've seen in people. I remember a friend of mine who was from an arts background, and she was able to showcase her interest towards consulting because she was very much involved in all these things, consulting club, and she did win a few competitions, and also that clearly showcased that she was very much inclined towards consulting.
Got it. Trishna and Amrit, like that.
Sorry, this was basically, I've seen like, sorry, for summers, I think your past profile matters quite a bit, but then what I've seen most people do is, especially my seniors, that is, so they're able to build, like Samad mentioned, they're able to build their profile by finals and get into consulting and unrelated fields, that is. So even if you don't get summer shortlist for final through all of the methods that he mentioned, you should be able to get shortlist for your field of choice.
Okay. So let's move on to the next question. Then we'll take up live questions again. So we'll go back and forth like that to keep it going. The next question is for you, Amrita. I'll start with you. Which is, how has being a fresher influenced your MBA experience so far? And how do you expect it to shape your placements because you're in your second year, right?
Yeah. So what I think is that like being a fresher, like I haven't seen like any difference in experiences. Like so what most people think, and it is also true, that freshers bring in a very new perspective to things, and whereas the work ex people, they kind of have a mindset that is already framed. So no offense, like it is a particular, like it is often said, and I think that is kind of true. Even I also feel that freshers have a lot of energy, and they are like quite excited to finish their one college journey and start another. So yeah, being a fresher, I think I've got to experience a lot of new things in MBA. Like it has been really different from my undergraduation. um, like I have tried a lot of new things which I had not tried earlier, and I met a lot of people who are extremely ambitious. So like the number is quite less as compared to undergraduation. Like there are 4,000 kind of students, and here we have 400. So the number is less. You get to know a lot of different people who are really ambitious, and you can learn a lot from them. So yeah, I think it has been pretty great. As far as placements are concerned, I again, like I think it will be reiteration of the points. Like you have to work on your CV, you have to be active in all the activities, and you have to build your profile in a way. I think Samad and Trishna have already mentioned that. Yeah.
Got it. No worries. Then let's move on to Trishna. Trishna, I'm curious, could you start by talking about your domain, your pre-MBA domain, wherever you work, what work was that like? And then talk about how that impacted your MBA journey so far. And based on your learnings about placements, the way they happen at IIM Bangalore, how do you expect your work to affect your final placement? Because you're in your second year as well.
Sure. So I am a chemical engineer, like that's what my BTech was. So I worked at Wipro Consumer Care. I was in their plant for just over a year. So I was mainly working on projects there. So that was mainly operation supply chain related experience. So then I wanted to learn more about supply chain. That's why I moved to Miebach Consulting. So that's a supply chain consulting firm. So that is what my work has been like. So I think that means I've been exposed to a few industries and few companies and all of that. So I think that certainly helped me understand at least some course concepts, like a bit somewhat better. Like say something was they were talking about something in class, I was like, I had thought this has happened and stuff like that. So I think that, and also like a bit on a bit personal note, I think my work experience made me at least me like more mature and self-aware in all of that. So MBA is a bit of a turbulent journey. Like especially initially that adjustment period is harsh. So I think certainly that kind of maturity and that say self-awareness, so to say, that my work has helped me develop. So I think that certainly helped me like get through my MBA journey better. So of course, that is not to say that freshers are like, so there might be freshers who are completely like Amrita, who are completely equipped right after to college to handle an MBA. I'm not sure I would have been. I think that 2 years certainly helped me in that way. And I think final placement in a sense, I think final placement depends more on what kind of profile you're building through your B school journey rather than your pre-MBA work experience.
So in terms of your domain impacting, so the summer placement so far has what's, if you could share a little detail about how, let's say, working in a consulting firm before MBA, how that conversation cropped up when you were sitting for summer placements, or what was it that the interviewers were trying to gauge when they asked you questions about your pre-MBA work ex.
So I think that helped me in the sense that consulting is a very demanding profession. So all of the consulting firms that come, they want to be sure that you are aware of all the positives and the negatives of what this profession entails. So given that I had worked in consulting before, they knew that I had knowledge of how consulting it is, how demanding it can be, the pros, cons, etc. So I think they were a bit surer of me in that sense. That okay, she knows, like it's not as if she's going to intern with us or say she's going to just, and that is be her first exposure to consulting. She already knows what this profession needs. So I think that certainly helped in say getting consulting shortlists and all of that. And in the interviews, so they mainly asked about what kind of basically the projects I'd done and the work I had. So I think I'm not sure that that is something that's specific to consulting. Whichever field you have your work experience in previously, they will ask you about all of the projects and all of the work you've done.
Got it. So before I ask you more questions, I'll go back to the live questions, and we'll take a few of them before we go ahead. So Nitish is asking, he has a work experience of 1 year on 1st of August, and he's planning to leave his job now because he wants to build a career in finance. And he's thinking that he'll justify himself in the interview and summer placements by sharing that he'll take the CFA in Feb. Do you think this is going to work out? Do you think this is advisable?
So speaking from personal experience, when I was preparing, there are a lot of people who are of this impression that they should leave the job and and prepare for a CFA. A good amount of people do this, and they are obviously questioned in the summers for the gap year, that what exactly were they doing in the gap year. Now it it depends on the person how strong a case if he's able to build. If you are, if it's for a level one, then the interviewer might feel that it's just wanted to pass that period just to show that that person was preparing. So that might not be a very convincing story. But if you had been doing it beforehand, like CFA level one, you have already cleared, you're going for a level two, and then you have taken a break, then it still seems like a more convincing story, because there are a lot of people who try to, in at least in the interview process, they tell that during the gap year they were doing this or that, and that the interviewer also knows that just trying to sort of put that thing out uh, and saying that this is the thing which I was doing when I was free. So, but the better thing would be to showcase that you were able to manage things simultaneously as and when it came. If you are taking time off from the job, that means that you're not able to manage things alongside with the job, because there are people also who've done CFA level 1, 2, 3 alongside the job as well. So it entirely depends on you how good of a case you are able to make if you want to justify that gap with respect to CFA or anything else which you're doing.
So just a general point, like whatever you do, you have to be able to just justify that, like just adding on to what he very correctly said. So whatever you're doing, whatever you just have to be able to justify that. Like there are people who have say taken a year off to prepare for CAT, and they've been able to justify it well in interviews and have gotten through. So whatever you're doing, just be sure that you have a proper reason in mind for that, and you can show your effort for that.
Got it. Okay. There is Nitish again asking, how can we improve our communication skills for interviews? This is obviously not the question at hand today, but if you could add a short, quick answer for him, that would be helpful.
So I think by interacting with a lot of people, and there are a lot of mock interviews that we do before our actual interview with our friends, and even like there are a lot of activities that are going on. So the more you participate, the more you talk to people, and you can also practice, like as I mentioned, mock interviews before the actual interview with your friends and all. So try that, and then don't just be the interviewee, be the interviewer as well. So I think that will help you understand both sides, both sides of perspective.
Okay. Then there's Prasad asking, does relevant work experience matter, or does only brand name matter?
Well, that's a tricky one actually. So, um, like I said, I work with KPMG India. So, most of the quality or relevant work ex which I did was towards the ending of my career. In the initial phases, I was not doing something which one would consider a relevant work experience, or not the kind of thing which I would want to put in my resume, because it's a very general kind of a work. So, although the brand value does matter, but then at the end of the day, if the interviewer is able to see that the kind of work which you're doing isn't as value added as you are making out to be, then it would just land flat. It won't be of having much of an impact. Um, so yeah, I think the quality of work is is something which is key. Like that certainly matters. Brand is something which comes in a secondary. It's just like a cosmetic thing. But if you're not doing something value added, or you're um, not doing anything which is meaningful, then you might not be able to take full leverage of that. So, yeah.
Just to slightly review that, in the sense that, is there an echo?
Yeah,
Yes,
we'll
slightly.
mute ourselves.
Sure. So in the sense that I completely agree that your work has to have value add. But if you're able to get that good brand value, and even if you're doing great work there, which is not necessarily relevant, that is still okay, in my opinion. That in the sense that you're able to you're doing great work there, you're able to show your impact and all of that. And if you have the brand, that will certainly help. Of course, if you get both, like Samad said, that the kind of work you're doing, that is certainly most important. But if you're able to get, even if it's not exactly relevant, but you're getting to work with a great brand, that will be the best, I guess.
All right, thanks for that answer. And before we take up the next question, I quickly want to share with you that there are a lot of folks who ask questions about getting into consulting as a career, even before their MBA, even after their MBA. And to solve that problem for you guys, because we had so many speakers who've been in consulting for years, we built a course with them, and it's a course that's going to help you build the skills you're going to need if you want to get into consulting, and it's also going to give you personal mentorship while you acquire the skills. Basically, it's a mixture of both. So if you're someone who you think you'll benefit from that, you might want to check it out. You'll find the link in the live chat comment, and there's a discount going on just now. That's why I'm sharing it with you. If you buy it in the next 10 days, you get a huge discount. So you might want to just win it at this point rather than later. But coming back to our conversation, I'll put the next question to you, Samar, and then we'll come back to the live questions again. Question is, if you could talk, so you've already mentioned your background a bit. If you could tell a little about how being an audit before your MBA played a role during your MBA, what all places do you think that created an impact? And just now at Tata, you're a management trainee. So how does, if you could just run us through the impact that your previous work has had throughout your MBA plus at your current workplace in your current role, that would be helpful.
Yeah, so one of the things which I did in my work was control testing. So that is, we have certain financial processes like P2P, O2C, R2R. So that was one area which I have used most in during the course of my MBA within classes and all, and also it has been repeatedly asked in my interviews as well, summers as well as finals. So, with the benefit of retrospect, I would say that at that point I didn't know when I was working, that I didn't pay much heed, because at that point of time I was more concerned about getting the work done rather than to understand the bigger picture, that what exactly does this whole process entail. So in retrospect, I feel I should have had more discussions with my seniors to understand the bigger picture, because it's one thing studying that same thing in an academic context, and there's another completely different thing to understand it from a practitioner. So yeah, that's why I mentioned earlier that it's very important to have a holistic view about what exactly you are doing, so that you're able to justify at a later stage. And that thing eventually came up in one of my consulting interviews, where I was asked that, so since you did control testing for all these clients which are in different industries, so just explain me the difference between a P2P control test which you do in a pharma versus a P2P control test which you do in an IT sector. And I did take a good amount of time at that point to think as to, basically I had to come up with, had to take some time to think like what exactly would be the difference, because in my mind I saw it as one seamless process. I didn't think of it in terms of variations in the process when it comes to different sectors. So and that was a big mistake which I did in the past. So yeah, so I think if you're a working professional, you should be very much thorough with what exactly you are doing, because you never know in what context what you're doing might be relevant to something which you might apply towards later when you're there in an MBA placement. Because consulting firms mostly, they work on a sector by sector approach, right? So there's one way or the other, it might just become relevant if you apply for a consulting interview. So yeah, that's one aspect which I found that which was there, which I regretted that I should have paid more attention to while I was working.
I'll just take up another quick question from the audience. There's someone asking, they had 3 years of work experience in core mechanical design job. So obviously they want to switch now, and they want to switch to finance, and they're curious what they can do during their MBA such that that shift is possible. Perhaps if Trishna or Amrita, you guys want to add something here, please feel free.
I think Trishna can add, because my graduation was in finance only, so I might not be able to add much.
So finance, from my understanding, like summers, it might like your summers depends on your past profile, so it might be a bit more difficult to get shortlist. But I think like taking up these all these finance courses, having a decent GPA, and so Samad mentioned earlier, all of these competitions and all of that. So there are a few of them that will come up through the course of the year, and if possible, giving the CFA, I think that will certainly help. I'm not exactly sure what else they can do.
Then there's somebody else asking. They want to know whether final placements would be affected if they've changed their company 3 times in a span of 3 years. And I know some of your friend has done that. So why don't you share your experience from there?
Yeah, so it will certainly not look very good on paper at least, such high frequency of switching. But if you're able to justify that with some reason, either personal or some uh, some other constraint which you might have at that point of time, that might just give you a shot at that particular job. But yeah, it's not in general, it's not a very good practice to have such frequent switches, because it gives a sense to the recruiter not just that you are looking for a better monetary gain or anything else, but it also gives an impression that you are not a very stable person otherwise. So that's something which you should avoid.
Just adding to that, I did change 2 companies in 2 years. So I think that if you're able to, you have those reasons in place. You're like whatever you have, if you're able to justify that, that should be good enough. So my main reason was learning. So I think that worked well enough for me. So if I mean, I'm assuming that person also has had a reason for those. So like someone very correctly mentioned that if they're able to justify that, I'm assuming you've had a good reason in place for that switch. So just if you're able to push that, put that reason across well, that should be fine.
Okay. Then there's somebody else asking, is it good to rejoin the same company after the MBA? What are the positives and negatives of it?
I think if it's on a different role altogether, because the reason why you left your initial company and decided to do an MBA was because of certain factor. More often than not, it has to do with the monetary aspect, maybe, or the kind of job responsibilities that you have, which you think are not something which you would want to enjoy doing long term. So I don't think it should be an issue, because the job which you will eventually get anyhow be a better value added for you as well as for the company, and it would certainly be more engaging for you. So I don't think that should be a factor.
Oh, then here's the question. Okay, I think let's mute ourselves when somebody else is speaking, because then there's the echo. Okay, this question is for you, Amrita. There's someone asking, is it like you can't get into an IIM if you don't have any certification or some course or something? What do you think?
So I certainly don't believe that's true, because like it depends on your B school interview how you get into an IIM, right? And like it all starts with that one question: tell me about yourself. So if you have I never mentioned about any courses in my tell me about yourself. I mostly talked about my POR roles in undergraduation and about my startup which I had. Like, so my entire interview revolved around that particular aspect and my hobbies and all. So I think if you have that thing prepared, that first question, if you have prepared that well, I think the interviewer takes from what you know. They don't want, they are not going to ask you something you don't know. Like, if you are telling that you like dancing or you like football, then the interviewer assumes that you know about it. That is why they ask you questions related to it. So it's about how you drive your interview.
Got it.
Yeah.
Then there's Shubhajit asking two things. One is it worth spending 15 lakhs for 3 years of BBA? But that's unrelated. But the second question is, does undergraduate college tag matter? This is for non-engineers, and he's probably asking in terms of an MBA and the placements and the summer internship experiences you'll have there. So what's your answer there?
So I think it doesn't matter to a like a very large extent. There is a little bit of impact, because that's the first thing a person sees on your CV. So that might have a little bit of impact, but it is not as much relevant as people are thinking it to be. That is my take.
Trishna and Samat, if I ask you the same question.
I think it might just help you a little bit in terms of shortlisting and all, but it's not a replacement for putting in genuine effort for preparing for the interview and how well you are able to present your case in front of the panel. So it might just get you there to the interview, but then again, it has to be the content of your CV and how you present yourself. That's more important.
And Trishna, what about you?
So I think it might matter for summers to some extent. For finals, though, again, like we've all mentioned, that it is mainly the kind of profile you build during your B school years that is what counts mainly. So it just might affect your summers to some extent.
Okay, then we have Nitish asking me to take personal questions. Yeah, no, I take personal questions. I just said I'll take them later earlier. Relax. Then there's okay. So future prospects of a computer engineer are quite bright. What triggered Amrita's decision to enter the management field, foregoing a lucrative computer science career?
This is why
That
I'm
feels
all
like
over
a
it.
personal attack. But anyway, like I realized early on, like I took up a computer science engineering course because I was interested in it. But gradually, I saw the competition and all that, and I tried doing coding. It's not that I did not try, but I did not enjoy it. So I started preparing for CAT in my fourth semester, which is the second year, and I also got to know about this new term called digital marketing back then. So I was very inclined towards it. So I was doing that as well as started preparing for MBA. So I think it was both the things, like 2 or 3 phenomena that happened that time. Like my interest in coding and computer science, it decreased, and my interest in digital marketing increased a lot. So yeah, I thought that MBA would add on to my interest and help me learn a lot of new things about in marketing in general. So yeah.
All right. Then there's somebody asking, they have 3 years of work ex. Does this reduce their chances?
I don't think that 3 years is like a bit on the higher end, but I don't think it would have that much of a detrimental effect that it could make or break your chances of getting into a decent B school. But no, like, to answer the question, I don't think it would have any detrimental effect as such. If you're able to present your case well, then I think should be a you should be able to get through.
Got it. Trishna and Amrita, if you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, even I don't think that having more work ex would like decrease your chances. Like I've read it somewhere that the ideal is 2 years, but even 1 year or 3 years, I don't think it will impact that much. Like I have had friends who got into companies in the same domain, in a different domain as well. So yeah, I've seen it. It doesn't impact much.
Okay. Trishna, if you want to add something?
Yeah, like I said, I don't think it impacts at least you're getting into a B school. That bit.
Okay. And if I were to ask you guys this, what do you think is a good work year duration to have before joining B school to make the most out of it? What would you say? Amrita would say 2 years, I think, because she is mentioned, but to the others?
I think 2 years is a sweet spot. I think there's a general consensus around that. But yeah, having said that, I have seen like in my batch at least there were people who had 4.5 years of work ex also. So that like you should not be deterred that if you have 3 years of work ex, you can't get into a decent B school. You can. It just depends upon how you present yourself.
Oh, got it. Okay, then we have the next question, which is how will work ex affect my salary during my placement? If yes, in what way? For instance, have you guys seen any trends about X domain folks getting higher salaries, lower salaries? How does your work experience affect your final placement salary?
So one example which I can tell you about. So there are one or two companies who have this thing upfront that um, X amount fixed plus Y amount times your number of number of years of work X, that will decide your final CTC. Apart from that, I haven't seen any companies which are actually explicitly stating that you will have different offers for candidates with different work X. If they do, they have this kind of a formula uh, defined beforehand before the placement process comes. But they are very rare. Very rarely it happens.
Okay. Trishna, what about you? Have you seen any patterns amongst your friends, seniors, their domain, their pre-MBA domain affecting the kind of salaries they get during their placements?
No, so I haven't seen it because, like Samad mentioned earlier, like if you're all of the people who are getting into a say a particular company for a role will have the same salary, so it doesn't affect in that sense. So indirectly, it might affect in the way the kind of company you're getting into. So based on your profile, you get into some sort of company, so that salary might be affected. Like so, say finance companies have the highest packages. So if so, in that sense, it might affect it indirectly, but there is no direct correlation as such. Like so, there might be those rare instances that Samad mentioned.
Got it. Okay. Amrita, if you'd like to add something here, or shall I move on to the next question?
Yeah, just a small point. I think there are a few companies that also specify before applying to it, like this much amount of these many year of work experience required for applying to this role. So yeah, I think I don't think it has anything very much related to do with salary, but as Trishna mentioned, it has something to do with the kind of company and the kind of role you get into.
Then there's someone asking, can you throw some light on off-campus for those who are not in top tier 1B schools? You can say no if you don't know, but
I have seen a lot of companies, they have applications over LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is the best place. Like you should, if you are planning to start off, if you are planning to go off campus, then you should already be active on LinkedIn. So if you're planning that, then definitely check out for LinkedIn. And even there are a lot of like referrals you can get through your friends and family in that, as a matter of. Yeah.
Also, on that note, your alumni network does help once you're out of the B school. So there are a lot of people who want to switch, just after they pass their course from the B school. So the alumni network and the LinkedIn groups, like Amrita mentioned, they do help, to make that kind of a switch immediately after you're done with the course.
got it. Then if somebody has a work experience in operations, does it create an issue for a consulting shortlist?
I don't think so. Like I've seen people working for like oil and gas companies, or even I had worked for a FMCG company in an operations role. I don't think that is so. And also, a lot of consulting companies, a lot of their projects are related to operations. That might actually even be a plus.
Right. And I just want to share with you guys that we have a course on consulting. It's called Consulting Festival, and it's with all of these experienced folks who worked in consulting for years with companies like BCG. And they'll not just explain to you what skills you need and teach you those skills, but also offer you one-on-one consulting personally based on your career. So if you're interested and you think you want to switch to consulting, you'll benefit from the course. And there's a discount going on, so you might want to catch it right now. And you'll find the link in the chat box, in the live chat box. So that's about consulting. Let's come to the next question, which is someone asking, how do I clear GMAT or CAT? I'll do another live on it next Thursday, maybe. You may want to subscribe. You'll get a notification when we do another live on it. So that'll help. Which is better, GMAT or CAT? Okay, I'll do another live on this too. Noted. Then there's someone asking, is it worth it spending 15 lakhs for 3 years of BBA from Symbiosis? Any thoughts, guys?
No thoughts, and I don't even have any friends I know. So,
Samad, what about you?
I don't think I can comment upon that. Like 15 lakhs for a 3-year BBA, I don't think it seems like a very sound investment. You might as well do graduation from somewhere else and probably prepare for CAT, that would be a better option.
Okay, then there's Vanshika asking how can fresher. Okay, guys, mute yourselves because there's echo. So there's Vanshika asking how can a fresher make it to a top consulting firm? Any thoughts?
So it is a popular notion, and you can find it on a lot of articles on Inside IIM as well, that consulting firms usually shortlist on the basis of a balanced CV, like your academic achievements, your extracurriculars. It should all be like kind of balanced. So that is first thing, like prepare your CV, ask your seniors and prepare your CV accordingly. Second thing is that you have to do preparation for consulting. Like as a matter of fact, for any kind of role, you have to prepare. I also prepared for consulting roles, right? So you have to prepare for it, do like read case books and have mock case I forgot the term. Like you can have mock case sessions with your friends, right? That is something, if you start early on and you do it consistently, I think that will help you prepare for a consulting role.
Got it. And in terms of getting the opportunity, so once you're at B school, you have companies coming over and you sit for their process.
Yeah.
But if you're not at B school, what are ways to get into consulting? Do you think that some minimum experience is required to get into consulting before if you're not an MBA? What are your thoughts about that? Perhaps Trishna or Samad, you could take it up from here.
So as far as I know, most of the people who do not have an MBA, they usually do end up joining the knowledge centers of all these McKinsey, Bain, or BCG, and from that, making a switch to a proper front end consulting role, from what I know, is quite hard. Not many people are able to make that switch because they're two fundamentally very different kind of roles. So yeah, like what you can do is probably start from like smaller consultancy firm if you are able to get an offer over there, or a boutique consulting, or a consulting firm which specializes in a particular domain. Take some relevant work ex and then establish your contacts and networks, and then probably make a switch to these tier one consulting firms, because they do hire people externally also. It's not that they just restrict themselves to hiring from these.
Krishna, if you want to add something, or shall I move on? Okay, then we have a mechanical engineer who hasn't been able to find a job. He graduated in 2020, and there are only 4 months left to get. Would you advise that he looks for a job, or would you advise that he just focuses on preparing for CAT?
I think as far as CAT preparation is concerned, like I've seen people who have done extremely well in 3 months of preparation as well, 3-4 months of preparation. So I think it depends upon if the person knows if he has that kind of ability to prepare that much in this given amount of time, then I think we should certainly give it a shot.
And on similar lines, sorry, was any of you saying something? No, okay, that was the end. Yeah, on similar lines, there's another question, which is someone who's done their BTech, recently completed it, got placed from college into Deloitte USI as an analyst. Now they're wondering if they should join the job, or they should attempt CAT this year and do MBA. In fact, is this an either or choice? I mean, what are your thoughts?
So I think they can join the job. Like I have many friends who have joined their job and they attempted the CAT that year. So having those few months of work ex will also give you a fair idea of like you will get work ex obviously, and you can like that adds a point in your interview, right? So that might help you. But if you don't join it now, then you'll have to justify it again, and justifying it just by saying that you were preparing for CAT, I think that is not a very impressive reason, because there are people who are like, there will be people who will be competing with you who are doing their job as well as preparing for CAT, and they will be sitting with you in the interview. So you can do both of them simultaneously.
Then there's somebody asking, they're curious how they can bag a finance internship. I'm a final year mechanical grad aiming for a career in management consulting. Do you guys have an answer to this? No? Okay. Yeah.
Can you repeat the question again? I didn't get it properly.
How to bag yourself a finance internship? I'm final year mechanical grad and aiming for a career in management consulting.
Oh.
That's a bit confusing, right? I mean, if you're interested in management consulting by a finance internship.
Because from what I understand from the question, he's not already doing an MBA. So
this is more like a conversation, Mayur. You might want to frame your question better the next time, and perhaps you can do it right now. Okay, then meanwhile, there's someone asking if their high school score is 69%. Can it affect their seat in top IIMs?
Yeah, I think 10th and 12th, it depends on the IIMs that you're that you're choosing.
Right.
In many of the IIMs, that the weightage is different for different IIMs, and as a matter of fact, for every institute, it's quite different.
And the criteria also keeps on getting changed every now and then.
Every year,
so,
right?
Yeah.
So you have to individually check basically for
Precisely.
Then there's someone asking, can I leave the job to prepare for CAT if I have less than 1 year of work at the time of filling the form? You can, yes, but should you? That's the question, right? No, Amrita says no. Trishna and Samad, if you could give a short, brief answer.
Yeah, I would also say no.
Yeah, it'd be better if they're able to manage the job and preparation.
So does I'm not sure if you guys would know, but there's someone asking, they want to get into product management and they're wondering if an MBA is really necessary for it, what value an MBA would add to their profile.
So if they're already working in a tech firm and they want to get into product management role, so from what I know, a normal, like when you get into software engineer and then you gradually get promotions, it takes to about 6 to 7 years, I think, to become a product manager, because you need to get a lot of experience and learning and all those things. But with an MBA, the duration becomes shorter, and obviously you're taught a lot of concepts and skills. Like, there are a lot of operation courses during MBA that help you in your product management role. And even when you prepare for the product management interviews, it adds a lot of value, and you get to learn a lot about a day in the life of a product manager. So that helps you in your interview as well as in your job later.
Okay. Any good case study books?
I think any case study books, IIT Bombay's case study books, IIM Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, all the institutes have their own case books. Yeah, every year.
You look at Victor Cheng's videos if someone is looking for resources.
Yeah.
Or just buy the consulting festival course that Inside IIM is offering, because that's not just one piece, it's all the pieces. You get all resources, mentorship, teachers, everything you probably need. I mean, I think of purchasing it myself sometimes, but anyway, I'm not in big school yet. So I'll move on to the next question, which is how is audit experience after graduation considered? How is it considered? Samad?
So it depends. So I was in a profile where I was not a qualified chartered accountant. So the kind of work which I used to do was very much different as compared to a work which CA qualified did, or for that matter, a person who was doing his articleship over there alongside me. That person was exposed. So my work ex was, in summers at least, I wasn't getting too many shortlists. I was getting very specific shortlists, either from finance, mostly from finance, and none from consulting, and a few from marketing. So that was basically my summer's experience. Finals was a little bit better because I was able to, like I said, do a few things which through which I was able to gauge my profile in a certain direction. So yeah, that's why I said the quality of work is also important rather than just the brand. So yeah.
So the same guy, the same person asking, what are the chances for a finance or a consulting shortlist?
That depends on a lot of factors. Like it depends on the kind of college that you get in, and because different IIMs have different uh, proportions of offers which come for consulting and finance and marketing. So I can't tell exactly how many shortlists will that person be getting.
Okay. Then there's someone called Always Do Your Work Before Time asking, what could the best graduation subject for non-engineers be?
History honors, psychology honors, maybe.
Okay. Why would you say that, Saman?
No, from what I get from the question is that if when it comes to a graduation subject, right, so they are like different. So depending on your profile, you would have to need a different kind of a percentile cutoff for you to be able to get into a certain B school. An engineer scoring a 99 may not get into a certain B school, but a person from an arts background scoring even a 91 or 92 might get into the same B school. So in that respect, that's how the system is designed. So to promote diversity and inclusion and all.
Got it. Would you guys mind if we extend this by 5 minutes and take up the remaining 2, 3, 4 questions?
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
Okay. There's Suvik asking, I will have 15 days short of 3 years work ex, have consulting experience and engineer from tier 1 college and joining IIT Delhi now. Will it affect shortlists in operations roles? I have 6 Sigma certificate. 6 Sigma Green Belt.
So I think Six Sigma certificates, they add a lot of value when it comes to operations. That is from all we have heard and learned in our journey so far. None of the three of us are from operations domain, so it's better if they can consult someone from operations.
Right.
And just specifically, I don't think like that point of having 15 days less than 3 years work ex will have impact on shortlist as such.
Yeah.
Addressing that.
A business or data analyst background is useful for which field post MBA?
I think it's useful in product management, in marketing, and even in consulting, I guess, to a certain extent.
Okay, Samad, are you from science background?
Yes, I am from science background, but I switched streams during my graduation. I did Bachelor of Management Studies.
Okay, please clear my question if possible. I'm very confused. My HS is 9.8 CGPA and higher secondary 70. How will it affect my seat in top IIMs?
That depends on their BTech score and their profile, from which institute they are graduating, what are the activities they are doing, and their entire profile. So it's not just 10th and 12th, right? And I think there are a lot of articles on Inside IIM already that will give them a good idea about it. So yeah, there is a profile evaluator tool as well. So that helped me a lot after I gave my CAT. So I think it will help them as well.
So just do one thing, go to insideiim.com. You will find a tab called Profile Evaluation Tool. Click on it. Enter all this data, your marks and everything, gender, profile. It'll ask you some questions, and then it'll share a likelihood. It's probabilistic, but it'll give you an idea which B school is likely to, admit you based on this profile. Okay, then there is Parag asking, I am a mechanical engineer preparing for CAT and I have a work ex of 25 months as a maintenance supervisor. So what's the relevant profile or field that I should focus on for my MBA placements? Okay, sorry, that was my WhatsApp.
I'm not sure at this stage itself they should start focusing on some specific sector for placements. Having an open mind will help. Yes.
Because I think for Trishna and Amrita, it would have been a very recent experience. So people have this notion that a particular vertical is their target vertical, but when your summer shortlists start coming in, you basically have to tone down your expectations or readjust your priorities if you want yourself to be able to go to a certain decent internship, right? Because most of the times you may not be able to get to a certain domain which you were targeting, right? So I think people should go, at least for the summer internships, people should go with an open mind, and so that so as to avoid this thing, the regret later on that they were not able to get into this particular stream or that particular stream. So,
Yeah, and just like someone mentioned earlier, just make sure you're doing good work. Like you should, and you're doing good work, and you pitch it well later when you're actually sitting for your summers.
All right, now Mayur is back. I'm not sure if it's the same person, but they've raised their question. They're a final year engineer. Okay, I'll just read it the way he wrote it. I'm a final year engineer. I know financial accounting and want to do MBA. So should I go for internship or should I learn more and do what? What should I do? Want a management consulting career?
I think it's kind of too early to, like fixate. As Samad mentioned in the last answer, Trishna also added a point. So be open to everything. And like if you're joining a B school, then prepare for consulting, but be open to everything and like grab the bits and pieces of a little bit of every other domain, because you never know what kind of shortlists you get ultimately.
Right, and
yeah. One thing which I would like to add here is that people, like most of the people, and this is something which I have seen personally, like have a very skewed perception about consulting, that they just want to get into consulting without realizing that it entails a lot of other things which tag along with that prestigious job position and the other perks which come along with the consulting role. So I think it's better to have uh, a very open mindset, at least in this stage, if you're in the final year of graduation, and not to set your target on a particular field like consulting. And consulting in itself is quite a huge domain. People, when you ask people that, okay, what exactly in consulting you want to do, they are sort of like clueless. Okay, I just want to get into consulting, then I'll figure it out. So that's not the kind of approach that is going to help you in the long term.
So to be specific in this stage, going for an internship might be better.
Mm.
Yeah.
okay, final question. Guys, mute yourselves. I'm sorry. Final question for today. No, there are two last two questions. Having work experience ahead of MBA will be fruitful at the time of MBA placements. It can help us in demanding for a good package. Is this a myth or is this true?
I think we addressed this point earlier also. Like irrespective of the number of years that you have worked, if you have been selected for a particular profile, I don't think that there will be too much leeway in terms of negotiating the package as such. All of the people will be given the same.
Right. So there are packages and companies offer X amount of package for X position that they're coming to recruit from a B school. If you sit for that and if you clear the interview rounds and everything, then you get that position regardless of your package basically. Now, obviously, your work ex could play a role in you getting the shortlist and the final job. So I'm just summarizing what these guys said earlier, but largely this is how it works. And also, please go back to the starting of the video if you want more on this. Around 10-minute mark, you will get a more detailed answer. Then, okay, final question for today, guys. I am working in IT company and have 3 years bond period. I have completed 2 years and want to go for MBA. How can I go ahead with this? Please, if you guys know an answer to this.
Like honest answer, I would say, like if you're already completed 2 years, just start your preparation and just hold on for another year, and then if you get through, then obviously you can just get out. Now there'll be an additional cost of paying that amount for fitting that bond. So why to unnecessarily bear that expense? Wherein you don't have any surety whether you will get through in this particular year or not. If your CAT is going to be good this year or not. So stick around one more year and then simultaneously.
All right. Okay, guys. Thanks for taking those questions. Do you guys have any concluding remarks to make on the topic, which was how pre-MBA work experience affects your B school placements?
So just one thing, that don't come in with any preconceived notions. I have this much work X, so this is going to be the same case. Like your placements are, there is a lot of randomness. There's a lot of uncertainty. You never I had zero finance knowledge. Still, I got a few finance shortlists. So I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of randomness. Don't come in with that any preconceived notions that I have less work X, so this field is better for me and stuff like that. And also about building a profile, don't think about this is the sector I want to go for, so I will build my profile in such a manner. That is not exactly a good approach. Like Amrita mentioned earlier, just do what you're interested in and do it well. So what these companies are interested in is, especially consulting, they look for a well-rounded personality. So if you have say some of all of these interests and you've shown that you're doing this well. So just whatever your interests are, like she mentioned, say dancing, writing, and all of that, whatever it is, whatever you're doing, just give it your 100%, do it well. So it's not as if there are only some kind of this. Okay, these are the some check boxes that you have taken, and then the company's going to shortlist you. There's nothing like that. Obviously, even we're not 100% clear on how they shortlist. So that is certainly very random. So just do what you're interested in and do it well. And don't come in with any preconceived notions.
Also, a couple of things which people can do who are already working somewhere and are planning to give CAT this year or probably next year. What they can do is whatever appraisals or recommendations you get from the clients and whatever achievements you have, just try and document those, try to contextualize those, quantify if possible. And if there are any learning initiatives there in your firm, like at Tata Capital, we have tie-up with Udemy and Coursera, so that you can actually pursue certain courses from there in your spare time. So if you can do that on a corporate account, then obviously that will certainly be an add-on to your CV. You can it can help you position your profile in a certain way. And also, if you're able to do certain CSR activities and all while they're in corporate, while they're in your company, so that will also help you stand out against other people when you go for doing them. So yeah, those are a couple of things which you can do.
So my tip for everyone will be, to make the most of their MBA and grab different opportunities, participate in different competitions and live projects, take up live projects, take initiatives, and not just for your CV but for yourself, to learn new things and enjoy your MBA. Don't take too much stress about placements. Like, it is important and there is some amount of stress required, but don't compromise on your mental health as such. Yeah, so that will be my final.
I'm so glad that Amrita is making that point of don't take stress for placement, despite the fact that her placements are sometime off. So that's quite reassuring to hear.
Okay, thank you so much, guys, for not just for your closing statements, but also for joining in and answering the live questions and for sharing your thoughts and experience. It was great having you. Before we say bye-bye, I quickly want to share all the consulting enthusiasts that if you're really wanting to sit for a consulting interview, preparing for it, or if you really want to clear it and you're serious about it, we've built a course. It's called Consulting Festival. You'll get not just mentorship, skill building, but also personal mentorship as far as your career profile and your jump into consulting is concerned. So this is something that we've built with all these people we know, because over the years we've had the chance to interact with a lot of experienced people as well after they've done their MBAs, and we sat with them and built this course specially to help you guys, because resources for consulting, there are lots of resources, but it's also difficult to divide your time into all of these. I mean, if there's so much to study, what all are you going to do? There's largely limited time with people. So that's why we built a structured course for you guys to help solve this problem for you. And right now, if you register for it before 4th July, you can save $7,000 on the course. So I highly recommend it. I would buy it myself, no kidding, but I am not in B school, so there's no point. But just sharing with you that this is something that's on the table and can benefit you. That's about it for today. Let me know what you think about the conversation, what next conversation you'd want me to have, and don't forget to subscribe because otherwise you won't know when we're doing another live. That's it for today. I'll sign off now, and I'll thank Samad, Trishna, and Amrita once again for joining me today for the lovely conversation. Thanks so much, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.